Okay, so good day everyone. Today we will discuss all about chapter 2, which is basic computer concept. Okay, so in this part of our chapter, we will discuss all about the definition and the functionality of computer component like ang internal, external, hard drives, keyboards, mouse, and many more. So we will discuss it all about hardware components. Okay, so first things first, before proceeding, we will know what is our chapter goal for this chapter. Okay, so we have six chapter goals for this chapter. So first is to identify the basic components of a computer. Then we will know and uh, how and why computers are used nowadays. Okay, so we will know kung ano andot ginagamit natin ang computer kadya. Okay, so also we will know the computer, how the computer works. Okay, so we will know kung paano gagana ang computer. Then we will also know the history of a computer. Okay, so we will discuss a little bit of history about our computer. Okay, so next is that the difference between software and hardware. Okay, so we will discuss the difference between software and hardware, but mainly in our chapter for this day, we will just focus on hardware. Okay, so our software will be discussed in our chapter 3, which is Windows operating system. So, since nga hindi kaabot sa chapter 3, we will just put our chapter 3 on the finals category. Okay, so uh, for the meantime, chapter 1, chapter 2 lang natin nga discuss for the midterm. Okay, so next is our classification and characteristics of a computer. So we will know and identify the classification and characteristics of a computer. So next is what does computer mean? Okay, so ano ginambala ang computer? Okay, so it says here that a computer is a main or is a machine or a device that performs processes, calculation, and operation based on instructions provided by a software or hardware program. Okay, so it is a set of calculation, processes, and operation nga provide ka instructions sa aton nga software and hardware. Okay, so it has the ability to accept data. Okay, it processes it and then produces it. Okay, produces into outputs or information. So that is the one characteristics of a computer. Okay, so computer can also store data later used in appropriate storage devices and retrieve whenever it is necessary. Okay, so it can also store data for long time uses. Also, modern computers are electronic devices used for variety and purposes ranging from browsing the web, writing documents, editing videos, creating applications, and playing video games. Okay. Also, and lastly, they are designed to execute application and provide a variety of solutions by combining integrated hardware and software components. So that is a computer, definition of a computer. Then we have our purposes of our computer. We have two purposes, the general purpose and the special purpose. Okay, so mainly the general purpose of our computer is to create or to calculate or to record or to print documents, creating database and calculation of accuracy with a constant consistency. Okay, so main purpose ng ating computer is to create the documents, calculate ka mga datas, analyze ka datas, print ka mga paperworks, and many more. So that is the main uh, general purpose of a computer. So other than that, we have our special purpose, which is mainly used for special tasks like programming, um, video editing, web developing, troubleshooting, and many more. So those type of computers are high capable specs ng mga computer like Ryzen high specs like Ryzen 7, Ryzen 5, Ryzen 3, i5, i7, i9, and many more. So that is the main special purpose of a computer. Other from our general purpose, which is creating documents, our special purpose is to create or to perform tasks in a special, to perform a particular or a special task like programming, web developing, and many more. So those are our purpose of our computer. Okay, so next is our parts of our computer. So in a computer we have two parts. We have the software and the hardware. Okay, so for our software, which we'll discuss later on sa ating chapter 3, but I will explain to you what is software. Okay, so software is all part of a computer that are not strictly physical, such as data, programs, applications, protocols, and many more, are broadly defined as software. Okay, so they are not physically available or di ta makaptan, di ta ma-interact, pero ma-interact ta by using input devices like mouse, keyboard, and other form of input devices ah, sa ating computer. Kag makita lang ta na sa silid nga computer, wala sa sagwa. Okay, so software are made of datas, information, programs, and many more sa silid ka ating computer. While ang hardware is a physical structure that houses computer processor, memory, storage, communication port, and peripheral devices. Okay, so it's a physical structure or physical thing nga makakaptan ta like keyboard, mouse, monitor, printer, speaker, and many more. So, nga maka-interact ta o ma-interact ta by using our hands. Okay, so hardware can do different purposes which may either accepting inputs, storing data, and sending output. So it can perform uh, accepting the inputs, storing data, and sending output from one device to another device. Okay, so our hardware has two categories. We have internal and external. So for our internal is a term used to describe the device that is installed inside our computer. Okay, so kumbaga, in other words, or sa kinaraya, ang internal components or internal hardware are mga tinai, mga utok, mga exoskeleton, mga pusong kang aton nga computer. Okay, so here are the examples of internal component of computer. We have CPU, which is the brain of our computer, our motherboard, which is the exoskeleton, our RAM, which is our memory, our storage device, which is our stomach or gina store ka mga data, and our power supply. Okay, so here these are the main components or main internal components of our computer. Okay, so we also have our additional components like network cards, sound cards, and video cards. So these additional internal components can be is an optional components. Okay, so bisan wala tanda ka dya, mapagana ta ang computer. Unlike these internal components up here, these are crucial components nga need gid ka computer in order to for a computer to work. Okay, so without computer, without CPU, without motherboard, without RAM, without storage, without power supply, it cannot work. Okay, so kumbaga, amo gid dya ang mga importante. Anja ay additional lang dya. Okay, next is our processor. Okay, so processor, like I discussed earlier sa ating chapter 1, okay, so the main purpose of a CPU is to process or uh, verify or uh, sa pagsara kang aton nga mga data coming from input devices to our output devices. Okay, so as we can see here, we have 4 pictures. Okay, so Sa babaw is our desktop CPU, while in the bottom is our laptop CPU. Okay, so the difference between the two is that desktop computers or desktop CPUs are very flexible, unlike sa aton nga laptop. Okay, so desktop CPU can be changeable, can be replaceable, can be repairable due to its removing capabilities. Okay, pwede ta na mabuol kay wala pa naka-soldered. Unlike sa aton nga processor kang laptop, which is integrated or soldered. So kung mabalda ang aton CPU sa laptop, we need to have to change the motherboard as well. Okay, so when the CPU is dead, we have to change the motherboard along with it. Okay, so that is the difference between desktop CPU and laptop CPU. Uh, so that is CPU. Okay, so motherboard, as we discussed it. Okay, so motherboard is our exoskeleton kang aton nga computer. So the main purpose of the motherboard is to provide data or to distribute data coming from one component to another. Okay, so it says here that the main board or a motherboard that provides basic connection between all of the other hardware components and devices internally and externally. Okay, so it distributes data coming from our components to our output components. Okay, so tanara ga interact ka data to from one data to another data. Okay, so our motherboard has two bridges. We have north bridge and the south bridge. To make things short, yun nga para di tayo mga basa kalabag-labag dyan nga sentence. Ang north bridge is the brain part or the main part of our motherboard. Okay, so it handles RAM, CPU, PCI, and many no crucial components. Other Unlike sa Southbridge which is handling output devices and output mga minor components like IDE, BIOS, legacy USB, PCI, and many more. So mainly the use of Southbridge is to perform output devices and input devices. Unlike sa aton nga Northbridge is storing data, processing data, and providing data. That is the main purpose of Northbridge, while sa Southbridge is to execute the data. Okay, so ano na yun do, kumbaga dyan gagawa ang output, kaya dyan magasilid ang input, tapos gina-process sa Northbridge, then ibalik sa Southbridge naman for our output. So that is the main function of our motherboard, is to communicate or transfer data from one component to another component. That is the purpose of our main motherboard. Also, next is our memory or random access memory. Okay, so to make things short, random access memory or memory is, or RAM, is storing temporary data coming from our application that we use. Okay, so one application is exerting or is tao kang mga temporary data or excess data or cache data gatawag ta. So those cache data is cached by our RAM or random access memory. Okay, so kung mapuno ang aton nga memory, usually ang mga temporary data will go to our ROM or storage device or read-only memory. So that is one reason nga naga-cause kang ginatawag nga lag, ang hang, and many more ang interfering activities ka sa computer. So basically the main purpose of our RAM is to catch temporary data coming from our application that we use. Okay, so in memory, we have two types. We have SODIMM and DRAM. Okay, so SODIMM, to make things short, is a memory that is used only or exclusively for notebooks only. Okay, so ang mga SODIMM nga dya is compact type nga mga RAM. Okay, so the main difference between the two is that ang DRAM or ang RAM, ang DIMM is much higher capable sa aton nga SODIMM kay mas gamay ang chip nga gina-install sa SODIMM unlike sa aton nga DRAM nga pinakabilog kaya na due to its size. Okay, so these are ang examples kang aton nga memory or RAM. Okay, so we have the DRAM, like I said, moto nga mas rack ang kaya na nga capabilities due to its amount of chips nga nakaangat. Unlike sa aton nga SODIMM nga kung apat, apat lang, kung tatlo, tatlo lang. Okay, so those are the difference between the two. Okay, so as we can see here in the picture, we have DDR1, DDR2, DDR3. So those are the version of our memory. Okay, so in the older version, they are using DDR2, DDR3 panaog. So, but nowadays we are using DDR4 as our memory since nga DDR4 maka-sustain ka high capable nga mga frequency and gigahertz. Okay, so unlike sa older version nga maka-sustain lang kang lower. Okay, so that's why nga mga old laptops medyo slow due to its memory nga gamay lang ana nga gigahertz, ana nga frequency and ana nga transfer rate. So those are the difference between the two. Okay, so DDR1 and DDR2 is used on laptops older sa mga 2010 panaog I think. Then DDR3 memory is used by 2015 models panaog. Okay, so those are the difference between DDR versions. Okay, so next is our storage device or read-only memory. Okay, so to make things short, ang storage device is a storage device that can store permanent and temporary data. Okay, so like I said na kung magpuno tong memory or RAM, jaga diretso sa aton nga storage device or ROM. Okay, so basically the use of this device is to store data for later use. Like mga document data nyo, videos nyo, music nyo. Then, it will be used later on kung gamitan nyo pagid or gusto nyo pag gamitan. Okay, so we have three different kinds of storage devices. We have cloud, external, and internal. So first thing that I will discuss is the cloud storage. Okay, so to make things short, cloud storage is a storage device that uses network or internet. Okay, so without internet, cloud storage is worthless. Okay, so and cloud storage is storage device that is used by using network. Okay, so ang cloud storage ka dya, mga devices dyan nga need kang internet in order to work. One example ka cloud storage ta is G Drive. Okay, so Google Drive is one storage kang cloud storage devices. Okay, so nowadays we are using cloud storage for passing our files sa or mga requirements due to the restriction of the pandemic nga face-to-face interaction. So that is one solution nga makapasa kita ka aton nga mga files by using cloud storage. Okay, so cloud storage is very important nowadays, but cloud storage is not very reliable due to its network capabilities nga nga ma-access ka mga hackers at crackers in other form of threats sa internet. So kung magamit ka mo ko cloud storage, I suggest nga magamit ka mo kang backup nga internal yung kid. So dyan ta masulod si external and internal. Okay, so first is external. So external device, the storage devices are comprises device that store information outside the computer. Such device may be permanently attached to a computer or may be removable or may be removable media. Okay, so they are portable type of external devices, portable type of storage devices. Okay, so examples of external devices are CD, external HDD or SSD, flash drive, SD card, and floppy disk. Okay, so mga USB ta, ang memory card ta, diskette ta, CD ta, those are our external storage devices. Next is our internal storage devices. Okay, so internal storage device is referred to different things, but mostly often refers to a computer's internal hard drive. Okay, so basically, purpose kang aton nga internal hard drive is to store operating system and store data. Okay, so uh, the difference between external and internal is that ang internal hindi pwede aksen while the computer is working. Okay, so kung aksen mo lang nga internal hard drive ra nga nagaandar, maguba computer mo. Kag may tsansa nga maguba ang imo nga operating system. That we will discuss later on sa chapter 3. Okay, so our internal devices has two devices. We have the HDD or SSD or solid state drive and our RAM. Okay, so RAM is also considered as internal storage due to its characteristics nga sa kasalukan na temporary datas and cannot be detached while the computer is turning on or while using computer. Okay, so next is our power supply. Okay, so power supply unit is a device that controls or regulate the voltage of our computer. Okay, so it supplies uh, electricity or voltage coming from the socket to our motherboard. Okay, so it converts high voltage nga currents into lower current nga voltage. Okay, so since nga ang ating motherboard is only capable of having 9 volts, 12 volts, and 2.5 volts. Okay, so ang power supply is main use is to convert from higher or bigger current, stepping down it to lower current. For example, 12 volts and 5 volts or 9 volts. Okay, so that is the main purpose of our power supply unit. So our power supply units has two different types. We have true rated and non-true rated. Okay, so for non-true rated power supply, it uses low type of voltages that is used by our low spec computer like mga pang browsing lang, pang ano. So it ang mga mura klase ng computer, it's not uh, power consuming na klase yung computer. So it is just recommended nga magamit lang kang non-prorated para mas kini sa kuryente. Okay, so if your component is high specs or taas gid or high end or it is needed by a high current voltage, okay, so dyan naman sa LED si true rated. So true rated power supply is using high condensed nga mga wires to perform high voltage current. Okay, so kaya na makasupply ka current sa atin nga motherboard kung ganit kang taas nga voltage like kung may mga graphic card ka nga taas need gid ra CPU mo taas ang ana nga nga frequency or gigahertz ganit gid kataas nga current. So that is the main purpose of our power supply. Uh, okay, so take note, the power supply is to convert high voltage to lower voltage to our motherboard. So motherboard ang supplyan na gid mismo. And also it can supply other components like hard drive, uh, CD, CD drive, diskette drive, and many more. So mga internal components ang supply na. So that is the main purpose of our power supply. Okay, so next is our external devices. Okay, so our external devices has two categories. We have input and output. Okay, so external devices are components are called peripheral components are those items that often externally connected to our computer. Either input or output function. Okay, so makita ta na physically sa ating computer. Okay, sa makaptan ta na, ma-interact ta na, kag makita ta na. Okay, so we have input and output. So for our input, we have mouse, keyboard, microphone, scanner, webcam, and UPS. Okay, so for our output is our monitor, printer, speaker, and headphones. Okay, so those are our external devices. Okay, so first is our mouse. Okay, so mouse is a handheld pointing device that detects two-dimensional motion related to a surface. Okay, so to make things short, a mouse is a pointing device that is used to point one program to another or point one uh, activity or no task. Okay, so it is a pointing device to point or to hold or to drag something sa aton nga computer. So next is our keyboard. Okay, so keyboard is a peripheral input device modeled after a typewriter. Okay, so gilabasi ta na sa aton nga conventional typewriter. Okay, so keyboard which uses an arrangement of buttons or keys to act as a mechanical levers for electronic switches. Okay, so it is a input device that uses keys to interact para maka-input kang mga input datas coming from the keyboard. Okay, so for example, mapindot ta na ka A, di ma-send pagpindot mo ka button nga A, ma-send ta na ka signal pagto sa aton nga processor, then ma-process ra, then imo ano na ibuya ra ka processor into an output information which is A man sa aton nga monitor. So that is the main purpose sa ating keyboard. Okay, so next is our monitor. Okay, so like I said na after nga maka-input kita sa aton keyboard or mouse or maka-point kita ka ano, diyan na masalit sa keyboard. So keyboard is an output device that is that displays information coming from our input devices or pictures coming from our input devices. Okay, so basically ang monitor ga display lang nga ginabuya ang aton nga mga input devices like mouse, keyboard, scanner, and other form of input devices. Okay, so next is our printer. So basically our printer and our monitor has the same characteristics to present or to visualize ang obrata nga output coming from our input devices. Okay, so the main difference between the two is that ang printer uses paper to perform its use nga maka-visualize by printing on a piece of paper, while ang computer sa maka-display na naka output device by using the LCD or liquid crystal display. Okay, so those are the main difference between the printer and the monitor, although they have the same characteristics, which is to perform or to visualize ang mga output coming from our input devices. So those are printer. Okay, so next is our speaker. Okay, so speaker are used to connect computers to generate sounds. Okay, so basically ang speakers is an output device that generates sound coming from our computer. Okay, so speakers has different kinds of form. Okay, so we have Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, USB type, and many more. Okay, so we have subwoofer and etc. Okay, so that is the main purpose of our speaker is to generate sounds coming from our output input devices or ating nga computer mismo. Okay, so next and lastly is our UPS. Okay, so uninterruptible power supply is and automatic voltage regulator, it has the same characteristics, which is to regulate electricity coming from our 220 socket or 120 110 socket. Okay, so it regulates high voltage to be regulated or to sustain or to maintain para hindi mag-overload kang kuryente pagto sa aton nga power supply. So that is the main purpose of UPS and AVR. Okay, so iwas overloading kang kuryente. So the main difference between the two is that UPS has a backup power in order for that electricity kung ma-burn out, hindi dahil mapatay-patay. So, may time kita nga i-save aton nga files, mapatay ta computer ta, kag ma-save ta perform ta nga mga task. Unlike sa automatic voltage regulator nga once nga mapatay kuryente or ma-burn out, maaari ta patay. So, uh, ang main advantage kang UPS ta is to the it can protect more sa aton nga computer kay para hindi ta na mabalda aton nga internal components, especially sa hard drive. Kay gulpihon mo ang patay ang hard drive, may chance nga magasgas ang disk na. So that is the main advantage of UPS sa aton nga VR. Although nga pareho tanda maka-perform kang ginatawag nga power regulation or ga-regulate ka power para hindi mabalda ang computer. Okay, so take note nga ang UPS or uninterruptible power supply is using battery to store backup power while automatic voltage regulator has none. Okay, so next is our quick history about computers. So our founder is Charles Babbage, and he is considered to be our father of computing. He invented or founded the computer between 1833 and 1871. Okay, Charles Babbage conceptualized and invented the first mechanical computer in early 19th century. Okay, so next is that the first ever giant computer is the giant ENIAC machine, which was invented by Mauchly and Eckert at the University of Pennsylvania. Okay, so ENIAC stands for Electrical Numerical Integrator and Calculator. Okay, so it is used a word of 10 decimal digits instead of binary ones. Okay, so like previous automated calculators and computers. Also, in the early years, computer is made out of vacuum tubes, resistors, and transistors. Also, in 1960s, computer is used by large mainframe computers was used by the US military and space program. Next is our evolution of computer. Okay, so we have four evolution of computer. Okay, so first is our the computer that was invented by Charles Babbage, which is the difference engine. Okay, so the difference engines are calculators that crunch numbers simply by repeated addition in regards to the method of finite difference. Okay, so next is our desktop computer, which we use nowadays. Next is our laptops, which is a portable version of our desktop. Okay, so natantaman na kung anong desktop computer, anong laptop. Okay, so Lastly is our handheld device, which is our mobile phones, Android phones, and uh, mga iPad and other portable devices. Okay, so it says here that it is a miniature computer typically built for a clamshell form factor, and it is significantly smaller than a standard laptop computer, but based on the same principle. Okay, so those are our handheld computers. Next is our classification of computers. So we have five classification. We have personal computer, workstation, mini computer, mainframe, and supercomputer. So to make things short, PC computer and workstation are very uh, similar. Okay, so the difference between the two is that personal computer is using mid-range or lower specificated nga mga components, unlike sa workstation that is using much powerful specificated components used for specific tasks, while sa aton nga personal computer is just only used for document purposes like printing, browsing, and many more. So those are the difference between the two. Then next is our mini computer, which supports multi-user computer system capable of supporting hundreds of users simultaneously. Next is our mainframe, which is same characteristics in our mini computer, but is much bigger and much powerful. Okay, so mainframe computers are used sa mga servers ng mga companies like Google, Facebook, and other big companies. Next is our supercomputer, which is extremely fast computer, which can be execute hundreds of millions of instructions per second. So basically, this type of computer is used by NASA to transmit data coming from Earth to our no astronauts. So those are our classification of computers. Next is our types of computer. We have analog, digital, and hybrid. Okay, so analog is composed of basic components like knobs, buttons, and other forms of mechanical or hydraulic quantities. Okay, so digital computers are our computer nowadays has that can perform binaries and can perform anything digital. So it has basically a screen, mechanical buttons, and many more. So those are digital computers. So next is our hybrid. Okay, so hybrid is the combination of the two types of computer. We have the analog and digital. So it is the combination of the two components or two types of computer. Okay, so next is our characteristics of computer. So we have seven characteristics of a computer. So a computer has speed or can perform uh, a great speed and accuracy compared to humans by performing mathematical calculation. Also, our computer has 100% accuracy in performing data inconsistency uh, and calculations. Okay, so also we have diligence, which can perform millions of tasks or calculations with the same consistency and accuracy. Next is versatility. Okay, so versatility refers to a capability of a computer to perform different kinds of work at the same accuracy and efficiency. Next is our computer is also reliable. Okay, so computer is reliable as it gives constant results similar set of data. Okay, so para reho ang mga data gina perform na gid. If uh, if we give a same set of input of any number of times, we'll get same result. Okay, so next or lastly is our memory. Okay, so computer has a built-in memory called primary memory where we store data. Okay, so last topic for today is our limitation of the computer. Okay, so without users or human beings to perform or to use the computer, a computer has lack of common sense, zero IQ, and lack of decision making. Okay, so those are the limitation of our computer. So that concludes our chapter 2 or basic computer concepts of no for today. Okay, so our next topic for chapter 3 is Windows operating system. So adya matakal ta ang ginatawagan nga software side kang atong computer. Okay, so we will know all about the application, the use of software, the different kinds of Windows operating, and many more. So that is all for chapter 2. See you on the next chapter. Thank you.